Here at TPS, we've done all sorts of NFL Mount Rushmores. Now it's time to do one for the wide receivers. Who are the 4 best wideouts in the history of your favorite NFL team? Let's get right to it. And a big shout out to Devan Shouse for suggesting this video. Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald, Roy Green, and Quan Bolden, Pat Tilley. Fitzgerald is second all-time in receptions and receiving yards. Green and Tilley were a top-notch receiving duo through the first half of the 80s. And Bolden, who crossed 1,000 yards 5 times as a Cardinal, has the second most catches in franchise history. Atlanta Falcons, Julio Jones, Roddy White, Terrence Mathis, Andre Rison. Jones and White are the only players to record at least 10,000 receiving yards, 800 catches, and 60 touchdowns with the franchise. Rison was a game-changer in his 5 years with Atlanta, recording double-digit touchdowns every year from 1990 to 93. Mathis, who's one of the more underrated players of the 90s, had 4 1,000-yard seasons as a Falcon. Baltimore Ravens, Derek Mason, Mark Clayton, and Quan Bolden, Torrey Smith. Mason is the franchise leader in receptions and receiving touchdowns. Clayton is 4th among all Ravens in catches and receiving yards. Bolden makes it onto his second Mount Rushmore, this time as a Raven. He and Smith fueled the team's run to the 2011 AFC Championship game and, of course, their Super Bowl 47 championship. Buffalo Bills, Andre Reed, Eric Moulds, Albert Dubinion, Lee Evans. Reed earned a bust in Canton after playing in all 4 of the Bills' Super Bowl defeats. He leads every Buffalo receiving category by a wide margin. Moulds earned 3 Pro Bowl nods as a Bill, and Evans was one of the team's few productive wideouts during the second half of the 2000s decade. As for Albert, he was a key piece of the Bills' 1964 and 65 AFL championship teams. Carolina Panthers, Steve Smith, Muhsin Muhammad, DJ Moore, Mark Carrier. Smith and Muhammad combined for 21,452 receiving yards and 117 touchdowns as Panthers, and of course both helped Carolina come so close to winning Super Bowl 38. Moore's just getting started. He looks like the biggest threat to take a run at all of Steve Smith's franchise records. And Carrier, who spent 4 seasons in Carolina, played a big role in their surprise run to the 1996 NFC Championship game. Chicago Bears, Johnny Morris, Harlan Hill, Alshon Jeffrey, Curtis Conway. In '64, Morris led the league in catches, receiving yards, and touchdown receptions. Pretty good. Not to mention he led the Bears to a 1963 NFL championship. Hill earned 3 Pro Bowl nods and led the league in touchdown catches in '54 and '55. Jeffrey played just 5 seasons in Chicago, but has the franchise's 3rd most receiving yards. And Conway played with the Bears from '93 to '99, racking up 329 catches for 4,498 yards and 31 touchdowns. Bengals, Chad Johnson, A.J. Green, Isaac Curtis, Carl Pickens. Both Johnson and Green have Hall of Fame credentials. If it weren't for a plethora of injuries, Green would have joined Johnson in the Bengals' 10,000-yard club. Curtis is a 4-time Pro Bowler who helped the Bengals to their first Super Bowl appearance in '81, while Pickens, who earned a pair of second-team All-Pro nods, led the NFL with 17 touchdown catches in '95. Browns, Dante Lavelli, Max Speedy, Ray Renfro, Paul Warfield. Dante and Speedy are in the Hall of Fame, and they each won 4 AAFC championships with the organization. On top of that, the former led the Browns to 3 NFL championships. Renfro was on the Browns' 54 and 55 championship teams with him, and he has 3 Pro Bowl appearances on his resume as well. Warfield has a yellow jacket after spending his first 6 years in the land. His 52 touchdown receptions place him 3rd in franchise history. Dallas Cowboys, Michael Irvin, Drew Pearson, Bob Hayes, Tony Hill. Irvin, Pearson, and Hayes are all Hall of Famers. Irvin has 3 Super Bowl rings, while the other 3 guys have 1 apiece. With that foursome, the Cowboys have arguably the best wide receiver Mount Rushmore of the 32 NFL teams. Denver Broncos, Rod Smith, Demaryius Thomas, Lionel Taylor, Ed McCaffrey. Smith holds every major Broncos franchise receiving record. He and McCaffrey were instrumental members of Denver's first 2 Super Bowl championship teams. Thomas and Peyton Manning were a top-notch duo from 2012 to 15, leading Denver to 2 AFC title banners and a Super Bowl 50 championship. Taylor is probably the least familiar guy on this list, but he led the AFL in catches 5 times over a 6-year span from 1960 to 65. Detroit Lions, Calvin Johnson, Herman Moore, Johnny Morton, Gail Cogdill. Megatron was the NFL's best wide receiver in the early 2010s. It's too bad he retired so early when he was still in his prime. Moore, an underrated star, trails only Johnson in the franchise's top receiving categories. Morton hit 1,000 yards 4 times as a Lion, despite never having a great quarterback throwing to him. Gale was a 3-time Pro Bowler in Detroit, and he has an NFL championship, although it came with the Baltimore Colts in '68. Green Bay Panthers, Don Hudson, Donald Driver, James Lofton, Sterling Sharp. Hudson was the face of the NFL during his playing career, which spanned from 35 to 45, winning 2 MVP awards and leading the pack to a trio of NFL championships. Driver is a lone Packer to hit 10,000 receiving yards, and he helped Green Bay to a Super Bowl 45 championship. Lofton pieced together a Hall of Fame career despite playing on mostly non-competitive teams. A neck injury sadly ended Sharp's playing career at 29 and 94. The 5-time Pro Bowler was on a Hall of Fame trajectory, leading the NFL with 18 touchdowns in his final season. Houston Texans, DeAndre Hopkins, Andre Johnson, Kevin Walter, Will Fuller V. We'll never understand why the Texans traded Hopkins in his prime, but he'll be one of the first Houston players to head into the Hall of Fame. Johnson was one of the NFL's most prolific players during his 12 seasons in Houston, earning a whopping 7 Pro Bowl nods. Walter is 4th among all Texans in catches and receiving yards, and tied for 4th in touchdown receptions. Injuries limited Fuller during his time in Houston, but he still did enough to make this young franchise's Mount Rushmore. Colts: Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Raymond Berry, Lenny Moore. If not for the Cowboys, this might be the ultimate wide receiver Mount Rushmore. You have 4 all-time greats here. Harrison and Wayne helped Peyton Manning to 4 MVPs and a Super Bowl 41 championship. Berry and Moore are both enshrined in Canton. They, along with Johnny Unitas, led the Colts to 58 and 59 NFL championships with a never-before-seen aerial attack. Jacksonville Jaguars: Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardle, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns. Smith is part of the 12,000 receiving yards club. He and McCardle were huge contributors in the Jaguars' trips to the 96 and 99 AFC Championship games. The Allen duo of Robinson and Hurns only played together in Duval County from 2014 to 17, but that was all the time they needed to assert themselves as top 4 wideouts in Jags history. Kansas City Chiefs: Otis Taylor, Dwayne Bowe, Chris Burford, Tyreek Hill. Taylor powered the Chiefs' offense to 2 AFL championships and a Super Bowl IV victory over the Minnesota Vikings. Dwayne was a shining star in his 8 seasons, helping them to 2 AFC West Division titles, while Burford was a key cog in KC's 62 and 66 AFL championship teams. As for Hill, he's on a clear path to the Hall of Fame, but there's still a long way to go. Las Vegas Raiders: Tim Brown, Fred Biletnikoff, Cliff Branch, Art Powell. Brown is 7th all-time in both catches and receiving yards and tied for 9th in receiving touchdowns. Fred is in Canton with Brown after earning 6-time Pro Bowls, an AFL championship, and a Super Bowl ring with the Raiders. Branch was a key piece of the franchise's 3 Super Bowl championship teams. And finally, there's Art Powell, who recorded an impressive 4,491 yards and 50 touchdowns in just 4 seasons with the franchise. Wowza! Los Angeles Chargers: Lance Alworth, Charlie Joyner, Keenan Allen, Gary Garrison. The first 2 entries don't need explanations. Such is life when you have over 9,000 receiving yards in a yellow jacket. Alworth, who later won a Super Bowl in Dallas, led the Chargers to a 1963 NFL championship. Allen continues to light it up for the Chargers these days. He's developed a reputation as one of the league's best route runners, and it's helped him average 100 receptions a season over the last 4 years. Lastly, there's Garrison, who earned 4 Pro Bowl nods as a member of the Chargers. Los Angeles Rams: Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Elroy Hirsch, Henry Ellard. Holt and Bruce were major centerpieces in the Rams' Super Bowl 34 championship. Hirsch, who was in Canton with Bruce, led the Rams to a league title in 51. And Ellard, who played for the franchise from 83 to 93, was named a first-team All-Pro in 84 and 88. Dolphins: Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, Paul Warfield, Nat Moore. Duper, Clayton, and Moore aren't Hall of Famers, but they combined for 4 Pro Bowl appearances as Dolphins. Warfield is the only Hall of Famer here. He helped Miami to 2 Super Bowls and a perfect season in 72. Minnesota Vikings: Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Anthony Carter, Jake Reed. Moss and Chris Carter are 2 of the NFL's all-time greats. It's a shame neither of the Hall of Famers won a Super Bowl. Before Moss arrived, it was Jake Reed who was Chris Carter's sidekick in Minnesota. He had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons from 94 to 97. Anthony Carter earned 3 Pro Bowl nods and helped many to an unexpected 87 NFC Championship game appearance, where they ultimately fell to Washington. Patriots: Stanley Morgan, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Troy Brown. Morgan is the Pats' all-time leading receiver, and only Rob Gronkowski hauled in more touchdowns. As a Patriot, Welker had 5 100-catch, 1,000-yard seasons and helped them to 2 Super Bowl appearances. Speaking of Super Bowls, Julian Edelman and Troy Brown each played on 3 Super Bowl teams in Foxborough. New Orleans Saints: Marcus Colston, Michael Thomas, Joe Horn, Eric Martin. No Hall of Famers here, at least not yet, but Colston, Horn, and Martin were all among the most consistently dominant receivers in their respective eras. As for Thomas, he won Offensive Player of the Year honors in 2019, and he helped the Saints to 4 straight NFC South Division titles from 2017 to 20. Hall of Fame spot isn't out of the question. New York Giants: Amani Toomer, Odell Beckham, Frank Gifford, Homer Jones. Toomer spent his entire career with the Giants and helped them win Super Bowl 42 over the undefeated Patriots. OBJ's tenure in New York ended way sooner than expected, but he trails only Toomer as the team's all-time leading receiver. Gifford is the lone Hall of Famer on this Mount Rushmore. He was an 8-time Pro Bowler who led New York to a 1956 NFL championship. Jones is perhaps best known for creating the football spike TD celebration, but the 2-time Pro Bowler also hit 1,000 yards in 3 seasons. New York Jets, Don Maynard, Wesley Walker, Wayne Chrebet, Al Toon. Maynard and Joe Namath terrorized defenses in the passing game. The duo led the Jets to their lone Super Bowl victory in the '68 season. Walker, Chrebet, and Toon produced consistent numbers. These 4 guys are the only pass catchers to hit 6,000 yards with the organization. Eagles, Pete Pihos, Tommy McDonald, Harold Carmichael, Deshaun Jackson. Pihos won 2 NFL championships with the Eagles in '48 and '49. McDonald and Philly won it all in 1960. They each earned 6 Pro Bowl nods and are both in the Hall of Fame. Carmichael, another Philly wideout in Canton, was named to the 1970s All-Decade team. D-Jax actually had 2 stints with the Eagles. The speedy deep threat also sits at over 10,000 career receiving yards. Pittsburgh Steelers, John Stallworth, Lynn Swann, Hines Ward, Antonio Brown. Maybe this is the best wide receiver Mount Rushmore of them all. Stallworth and Swann were members of all 4 Steelers Super Bowl championship teams in the 70s. Ward leads the franchise in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdown catches. He also has 2 Super Bowl rings of his own with the team. And then there's Brown, who was the NFL's best receiver from 2015 to 18. He was a lock for the Hall of Fame before off-the-field issues stained his legacy. 49ers, Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, Billy Wilson, Dwight Clark. Rice is the GOAT, enough said. And Owens is arguably a top 5 all-time wideout. Wilson, who played for the 49ers from 51 to 60, earned 6 straight Pro Bowl nods from 54 to 59. He was a model of consistency in his era. Clark, best known for the catch that created the 49ers dynasty, won 2 Super Bowls with San Fran and sits 3rd all-time in receiving with the franchise. Seahawks, Steve Largent, Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, Brian Blades. Largent is one of the greatest to ever do it. Baldwin and Lockett were among the NFL's most explosive duos before injuries prompted the former to retire in 2019. Meanwhile, Blades sits behind only Largent on the franchise leaderboard for catches and receiving yards. Buccaneers, Mark Carrier, Mike Evans, Vincent Jackson, Kevin House. Carrier and Evans, who holds practically every franchise receiving records, are the lone Bucks with at least 300 receptions and 5,000 receiving yards. Evans is a likely Hall of Famer, having led Tampa to a Super Bowl 55 championship. Jackson hit 1,000 yards 3 times in 5 seasons with Tampa, and House recorded 4,928 yards in his 7 seasons there. Titans, Charlie Hennigan, Ernest Givens, Drew Hill, Ken Burrow. Givens and Hill each hit over 7,000 yards as members of the Titans/Houston Oilers franchise. Burrow fell just short, notching 6,906 yards in 11 seasons. All 3 men earned a pair of Pro Bowl nods too. Hennigan, a 5-time AFL All-Star, led the AFL in receiving yards twice and helped Houston win the 1960 and 61 AFL championships. Washington football team, Art Monk, Charlie Taylor, Bobby Mitchell, Gary Clark. This is a dreamy wide receiver Mount Rushmore. Monk, Taylor, and Mitchell are all in the Hall of Fame. Clark isn't, but the man was no joke with 4 Pro Bowl nods and 2 Super Bowl rings. Monk, by the way, won 3 Super Bowls of his own. Altogether, these 4 combined for 19 Pro Bowl selections and 251 touchdown catches. Which wide receivers do you think belong on your favorite NFL team's Mount Rushmore? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by hitting that subscribe button down there. If you liked the video, then hit the like button. We'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune into TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you.